All right,
Hello,
here we are.
it's Thursday.
Thursday once again, and it's Charlotte and Jessica coming from Aragon Wine Market in
All the way from
Pensacola,
Pensacola, Florida. That's right.
I know. Well, I mean, you have to tell everybody where you are these days because it's such a global watch parties and everything that's going on. There's Yvonne. It says hi from Birmingham.
That is definitely one of the cool things about this experience is having the opportunity to have friends and family members and others beyond join us from afar and be able to imbibe and have a good time while they're either stuck in their houses or just kind of following some restrictions and still, staying home and hanging out. So we're happy that you joined us.
Yeah, exactly. So Aragon Wine Market, what's happening right now? We got a little housekeeping stuff. Parking, we still have the parking for curbside out front. So if you want us to do curbside, we're still happy to do that. I know things are opening up a little more, but still people are still being cautious, and I think that's a good thing until everybody sees where it's going. Plus, you don't know, you can't judge. You might be healthy, and somebody else might be facing other problems.
That was a really great statement from a friend of mine, that has an autoimmune deficiency disorder and is, has something that could really, she could get really, really sick if she actually contracted this. So, so that was something that, just because she looks healthy on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that, it's not something that is a concern to her. So we certainly want to be respectful of that. We alcohol and spritz and wipe down. I'm a cleaning bee. All the time, making sure that we keep the shop clean and that we're cognizant of your concerns. And trying to make it a quick and easy process. So if you do need to get something, pick it up. You don't want to come inside, you can always call us ahead and we'll run it out to you and make it as easy as a process as possible to make sure you're comfortable. And so that kind of leads us into our virtual wine tastings. And so we've got those one planned this week, and it's awesome. We got a great Scot Bilbro coming up. It's going to be really exciting. And we've got one planned next week with Montgrave, which is they're out of France, and they were on our, I think, December featured wine. So if you came in the store during November, December, you may have tried these wines before, and they're delicious. They were over just gangbuster. And so we're going to do those for the next virtual wine tasting. And then we're back in business. We're going to go back to our wine tastings. We are going to have them in the courtyard. So we kind of were playing along with the bars, and so we were watching what are the bars doing right now, and so since they've opened up bars, we're a little more inclined to have our wine tastings. The only catch I would say is that wine tastings do have an intimate aspect to them. Definitely, we're sharing wines, we're close to each other. I've had to catch myself over the last couple of weeks, months, because it's only natural that I want to grab a bottle and touch it and look at the label and read it and absorb it. And so it really is a personal experience.
And that's the nature of wine. So we're going to have them in the courtyard. And believe it or not, even though it is hot outside, our courtyard has a nice breeze, and we may bring in a big fan. And I'm looking at it right now out the window, and it's shaded. So so it may be a little hot, but it will be we'll be able to share wine with you in person, and so that'll be 2 weeks from now. So I'm excited about that. We're very excited about that. And also, I'm kind of wondering if anybody wants to give any feedback on whether or not we do these virtual wine tastings maybe on another night of the week, maybe on Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights, or I don't know, another night of the week, not weekend nights. I'm busy. But
not Sunday. That's for fun day.
Sundays are out always.
Absolutely.
But that's something to think about in the future. So, but tonight, how this works, we've got the Marietta Cellars wines on tap. We've got two. I'll let you know which ones we're doing. We're doing the Old Vine Red, and we're doing the Armay. So hopefully you've picked up your bottle earlier in the week and have it open, or the first one on tap. We're starting with the Old Vine Red. So should we welcome everybody? Let's go grab the Old Vine Red, and I'll tell you just a little bit. It's Marietta Cellars. This has been the most popular wine in Pensacola for years. And if you ask any of the wine reps here, their quota on this wine is just off the charts. So if, regardless of, like Miami, the Miami reps have a certain amount they have to sell. We'll double that, quadruple that for the wine reps in Pensacola, because it's got a cult following here. So Marietta, we'll ask Scott a little bit about Marietta, and he can tell us a little bit more about that. So we're going to let everybody jump in now. We've got Justin from Marietta Area Settlers.
Hello,
Hi,
welcome.
Justin. We've got
our very own
Mikey Marietta. And then last but certainly not least, this one right here. There we go. And we've got Scot Bilbro, who is owner and winemaker at Marietta Cellars. It's so nice to see you all.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to see you.
Wonderful.
Also.
Thank you for being here.
I've been to the Aragon market quite a few times. I always love sitting in that back courtyard, especially when the fresh herbs are growing, and it's just such an awesome place with good people all hanging out amongst the shop and popping bottles, and it's a lot of fun. So happy to be part of it.
Thank you, Justin. We look forward to seeing you here again.
Absolutely. Looking forward.
Definitely.
So without further ado, Scot Bilbro is the one and only son of the founder. Scott, it's so nice to have you joining us. I see you're opening a bottle. What's that you're opening? The Armé?
I'm working on Armé. I already got a jump start on this. So
looks like a little in the glass.
Yes.
Great.
No judgment. We did too.
Yeah. Thanks.
So did we.
Thank you for having me. It's great getting my mug virtually in Pensacola for a little bit. Love all
Have you ever been to Florida or ever been to Pensacola?
You know what? It's literally embarrassing. I've been to Florida several times, and I have never gotten through Pensacola. It's way up on my list. I had it on my list this April, but something happened. I don't know. So.
Well, you're a superstar here because, like I was saying, your wines have a cult following in Pensacola, and I know, like Michael will attest to this, that the reps have a much higher quota than in some of the larger cities of what they have to sell because it is so popular here in Pensacola.
And I wanted to let you know, Mike is a rock star up there too. So thank you for everything you do for us, Mike. Really appreciate it. Trust me. It does not.
Yeah, we're kind of partial to 60. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, we feel super lucky that Pensacola has always loved our wines, and it's been a hotbed for us for a very long time. So, hence my embarrassment I haven't been there yet.
That's okay. We look forward to having you here.
Thank you. Real quick, before we go on, we're just started this tasting. I got to bring my little man on because he wants to talk to you also.
Absolutely.
So, this is Booker, and he's been helping me out at my tastings, and I don't know what he wanted to say. You want to say something? Oh, he's telling jokes today.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
But do it loud.
we would love to hear a joke.
Look there, loud.
How did the ocean say hello to the land?
How?
It didn't say hello. It just waved.
That's awesome.
There you go.
That's so great. That's so precious.
There you go.
Perfect Florida joke. Definitely.
Yeah,
Love it.
actually, I didn't coordinate that with him, but I also know what his next joke is, and it's even more perfect for Florida. So particularly Pensacola area. So.
And Pensacola,
Later in this segment.
was it Pensacola used to be carried by Tropical, I think was the distributor back 20 years ago. Tropical, I think it was called.
So. Way back when.
Yeah,
Sounds right.
Tropical. One of my accounts was telling me today they used to buy lot number 5.
Wow.
And now it's on 70 coming up, right?
Yeah,
Lot number 5.
70. Single digits is a thing. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Let's talk about some of that
Let's
history.
go back to speaking of you. You've got your child there. You were a child growing up in the wine
For a
business.
little while.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of Marietta and what you experienced growing up there?
Yeah. Super lucky to, grow up in this area. My pop started Marietta Cellars back in 1978, a couple of years before I was born. 1982 was the first year that he made Old Vine Red. And, my pops was a weirdo. When you think about my dad creating Old Vine Red for the first time, think about a former football player, former hospital administrator, former hippie, making wine in a converted barn. And imagine him with long black curly hair down to his shoulders and a Magnum PI mustache. And basically throwing out the rule book, not making Cab, not making Zin, but instead putting Zinfandel and Syrah and Petit Syrah and Carignan together and coming up with this whole new thing. And, for me, he really was one of the originators of the entire red blend category. And I was lucky to, get to be around during all that time and grow up in the vineyards and winery. Inside of a barrel room is not the worst place to play hide and go seek on a Friday night.
As I was educating myself and just kind of absorbing all the information from the winery and the website, I think that was one of the beautiful things that kind of stuck out to me is that you used words like growing up on the winery was magic, and having the experience that, your father would take pallets or boxes and turn them into suits of armor and create. Magic is a word that I use a lot for the events that we do here and for events that I do. I love that word because I think it's so important in your life to have magic. And so I thought that was so beautiful that you mentioned that your experiences growing up as a child were so beautiful, playing dress up and being, having that coat of armor made out of a box and all that fun stuff. And I thought it was fascinating that, 1978, you guys started, and your father used to be a hospital administrator. So to go from wine, that kind of corporate realm into wine, it's pretty incredible of a change. Yeah. And you guys are second generation, but many generations deep as far as winemakers in your family. And I think that we can all feel that passion, I feel like, in the wine, and that's why it's so popular.
Well, I think it's part of it. We are way into creativity and playing and transformation. I mean, when you think about making wine, you're transforming. First of all, you're growing grapes out of thin air, right? You got a plant, you got water, and you got sunshine, but suddenly there's grapes, and that's amazing. And then you take those grapes, which are this physical, solid thing, and suddenly you've got like that one, and suddenly you've got this amazing liquid. It's all magic. Thank you. And with my dad, that was kind of one of his great gifts, was just transforming things and being creative. And for me, that's part of the reason why Pensacola is such a great place for us. I mean, you guys know you're fun, right? And you guys know you like to play. And I just think that there was something there that resonated, and that's kind of what we're all doing.
We like iconoclastic wines also. We like iconoclastic producers, and a lot of what is great about California is producers like Marietta or Chateau Montelena or all these other names that people came from other businesses. They used to be lawyers. They used to be Chapelet. They used to sell coffee. And they came and they said, I want something that's truer for my life. I want to do something that gets my hands involved and my head and my heart. And they go from selling coffee wholesale in a machine to making wines on Pritchard Hill, or they go from being a hospital administrator and selling really varietally specific, fresh, fruity wines at Marietta. So that's really important too, that a lot of people don't remember about California because there's so many big corporate entities now, is that these are guys that wanted to change and wanted to bring forth a sense of, connection to the earth with their families. Like you say, Scott, I mean, it's a family thing. There's a reason why you guys and Don Chapelet and people like that wanted to move to Napa and move to Northern California, it's because they wanted a truer sense of being for their family too, not just their career, but their family. So that's what's really key, I think.
Well, for us, the connection to the earth, seasonality, making something with your hands, like that's just a great life, right? And we're lucky enough to be in a place in industry and to have gotten into it where we can actually, feed ourselves and keep our business going that way. But there's this other thing, which is, we get to share it across the country. So not everybody now gets to have a garden or gets to grow something and spend as much time outside as they want. And part of what we do is, aside from literally transforming the fruit of that labor into something that we all like to drink, is try to communicate some of what that whole process is like and bring it all the way through to whether it's Pensacola or Durango or Madison, Wisconsin or wherever, so that people can connect to it. And it's just about sharing an experience, which I think is a beautiful experience.
That's great.
Well, one of the things that I also think is interesting about your winery and the connection your dad had with the community is that the vineyards that you guys currently own kind of evolve organically with the community. Just kind of talk to people and having the opportunity to purchase them at the time, and kind of it just organically came about as instead of going out and targeting this property or that property. It was more community based.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. Excuse me. Try not to sneeze. I think my pops was a genuinely good guy, and that's really been borne out by the industry. So over decades of sourcing grapes and buying grapes from old time little Italian farmers and people all across Mendocino and Sonoma County, there are several pieces of property which we always liked and were interested in, and people end up coming to us, and Viola Angeli, where the winery is, and which would name the Angeli after her. She knew my dad his whole life, and she said, "Hey, I'm gonna sell this thing, and this property didn't have a winery on it, and he said, "Oh, that would be amazing. I would love to buy it. Here's what I can offer." And she said, "Well, that's only about 60% of what the guys next door are offering me, but who cares, Wow. And we've just been able to keep connections, which I think part of it is that people see what we're doing with the land, and people see our connection to the industry. And, there aren't that many small family wineries anymore. And so here we are growing 300 acres, organically farming and doing everything in-house. And,
Absolutely.
You guys are all organic?
We are now. So the wine that all you folks out there have in your bottles right now is not 100% organic, but this is our first year across all of our properties farming 100% organically. We've been moving towards that for a long time. So it'll take a couple years till that fruit's out in your bottles, until at some point we're certified. We've been moving in that direction for a long time, but we had to get to a point where we could successfully farm organically, because it's hard to just flip a switch. I like the dribble.
So moving on to the Old Vine Red, which is the most popular one that we sell here at the store. We can't keep this in stock. I mean, I buy it weekly. I will, no lie, I buy it weekly, and everybody seems to really love it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it? I know it's predominantly Zen, but I'm sure it's got a few other little grapes in there as well.
It does. It's almost always predominantly Zen. I'd say the percent somewhere between 60 and 70% Zinfandel every time. There's no recipe, but in general, after that, it would be Syrah and Petite Syrah, and then little components, some Carignan. And we will feather in some other varietals as is needed to really kind of fine tune the blend. So that might be Barbera, that might be sometimes Grenache. There's been Montepulciano in there. And the way that we make this is we just pull all the samples from all of our tanks and all of our barrels that we think would be relevant to the blend, put them out on the table in front of us, and turn the label away from us. So when I'm tasting and trying to work into that blend, I don't know what vintage it is. I don't know what varietal it is. I don't know what block it came from.
Yeah.
And then from there, we're just kind of making a three-dimensional map of this is fruity, this is structural, this is rich and round, and trying to kind of start making the blend in our heads until we fractionally put those different samples together. If we're lucky, we get there pretty quickly. And once the blend is feeling appropriate, you know, the goal is not to have it taste exactly like this every single time. The goal is to make the best old vine red we can every time we release a new lot. So then at that point, it's like, what does this need? Does it need 0.5% of Grenache? Does it need 0.25% of Barbera? Does it need 2% of Cabernet, which is weird, but sometimes it works. And that's really how we approach it, looking for something that's fruit forward, supple, hefty, and just super fun to drink.
Please not.
Also non-vintage, right? You want to talk about the non-vintage aspect of it as well? I mean, that's a huge component of what this is. And also in today's environment of the way that wine producers are producing wines, we know that I think non-vintage blends, especially for reds, are going to be a way of the future, I think, for a lot of countries because of climate change. And I've said this on this broadcast many times. I sell wine for a living and you make wine for a living, Scott. Climate change is real. We know it because we're out there every day selling a climate change influenced product. So if you could talk a little bit about the non-vintage aspect of it, I think that would really help people understand a lot more about this wine for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Thank you, Mikey. So, you know, you picture that long-haired hippie messing around with different varietals, and rather than just taking a little bit of Petit Syrah and a little bit of Syrah and combining it with Bright Beautiful Zinfandel, you know, he's like, well, this is great, but this Bright Beautiful Zinfandel really wants something richer and darker and even more supple. And if I leave the Petit Syrah in barrel for 3 years, that's what I get. And the Syrah actually showcases best after 2 years. So what happens if I take 1-year-old Zin in general, right? And 2-year-old Syrah and 3-year-old Petit Syrah, and then work them back together? You know, you get something greater than the sum of its parts. You get something that's not always possible on a strictly vintage basis. It's a great way to make wine. You know, there's a lot of flexibility, and all of that flexibility is used to produce something which is, you know, it's weird. It's bright, but it's long. And when we get the blend correct, from my perspective, you know, it just really sings as an individual wine. So that's the goal, and part of how we get there is that non-vintage aspect.
And Robert Parker loves this wine every year.
He does.
Right? He loves these lots. I mean, it always gets huge scores, always.
Wasn't there some
You might fit in Pensacola then.
coming up to the driveway and your dad and Robert Parker like drinking wine on the back of a pickup truck? I always loved the story, but I always wondered, was it folklore or was it actually?
That one's folklore, but you're close. You're close. So what it is yeah, in the early 90s, Robert Parker started giving us, you know, insane write-ups. You know, suggested in 1991 that he wished that my dad would make old vine red 1 million cases a year, things like that.
Wow.
And you know, as recently as like 6 years ago, you know, he said this may be one of the finest values in all of wine. You know, so he's a fan, which we really appreciate. When he started saying some of those things, he actually reached out. I mean, I'm sure he had someone reach out, and he was just like, "Hey, I want to swing by and say hi to Chris and see the winery and meet you guys." This is in 1991 or so. And my dad is going to be one of the only people who ever did this. He called back and said no. So he called back and said no, and we never really understood why until we started pushing on him it later. And turns out my dad was such a humble guy that he's like, well, we had just built the winery. He's like, the driveway was still dirt. He's like, I was just too embarrassed to have Robert Parker come out here down a dirt driveway. And
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, that's hilarious.
But that's
the old vine red, let's get a little technical on it.
Yeah.
We talked about the grapes. Can you tell us a little bit about how it's made?
Yeah, so since it's a multiple vintage wine, you have to kind of think about this wine three-dimensionally. So you've got multiple varietals, but you're also working across multiple years. And so I've got this big matrix that kind of is growing as we go along in time. And as I take blends away, is shortening. And so generally, as I said, Zinfandel is used in the blend about a year in, Syrah about 2 years in, Petite Syrah about 3 years in. Oh, that was magic.
Magic. That's our word.
Look at that.
Magic.
Only because we were remiss in getting him some, so he had to come get it himself.
We were slacking.
He's
Continue, please. Sorry.
So in that, yes, you were talking about your matrix.
Yeah. So
how did you do that, Vic?
well, so the way we do this is, since I know I'm going to blend multiple varietals together, and I'm going to have the benefit of having multiple years for, let's say, the Petite Syrah, I can ferment my Zinfandel on the cooler side, which means that it stays a little more focused, a little fresher, a little brighter. It doesn't get as big and rich as round, but that doesn't matter to me because I'm going to put some Syrah in there a couple of years from now. And what it really enables me to do is to ferment each of these different varietals in a manner which most focuses their beneficial aspects. So really bright for the Zin. I can ferment a little warmer for the Syrah because it gets really rich and savory. For the Petite Syrah, we actually ferment it cool as well. And I will take it, and ferment, pump over, and I'm able to put just as much tannin in there as I want, because I don't have to worry about the Petite Syrah being too hard or too chewy, because I know I can keep it in barrel for 3 years if I want to. And so it really is kind of, how do you maximize each individual component via fermentation temperature, via picking times, all of that, with the knowledge that later on you're going to work them back together.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And you said you don't want it to taste exactly the same every year, and I get that, but it does have a consistency that people love every year. So that's kind of neat. And we're on 69. Lot number 69 this year. So I guess it continues next year.
We had a long and hard discussion about whether we should put the front label on upside down and the back label on right side up on lot 69, but we decided not to.
Valid. I think it ties into your father's long hair and corn mustache that I think you mentioned in a previous interview.
Yeah, we just let everyone celebrate it however they choose.
And this
And
one,
it's barbecue wine. I mean, it's such a great barbecue wine because it goes with all sorts of different foods. You can serve it a little cool too. I think it's a really good wine that's served a little bit chilled in the same way you would do a Beaujolais or something. I mean, I know it's not a Beaujolais, but it's really good when it's a little cool.
Yep.
And 3 wines I've sold in my life in either in a restaurant or in wholesale that I thought are some of the best food wines. And OVR is one. And, Sean Thackeray makes another one that not many people have had. That's kind of a geeky wine. And then Julie Johnson makes one at Tres Sabores that we did one here a couple weeks ago. Those are 3 really great food wines because they go with everything. And OVR goes with everything. Really, ribs, chicken, fish, salad. Yeah. It's such a great wine because it goes with every kind of food. And that's perfect for Florida because we can make any kind of food almost any time of year here because of the fact that we can grill out in December when it's 45 degrees or 65 degrees even. It's weird. Florida's weird. I'm from New York. Florida's weird, guys. It's so weird.
Yeah, but
I'm going off script.
We're going off book now.
Because the rosé, how long have you been doing the rosé, and why have I not known about that?
That's my fault. Sorry. I brought that today just for fun.
No bad.
I'm happy to seeing it being enjoyed. So the rosé, God, I think that's the 3rd or 4th year we've been making that. That's half Syrah, and the other half is Grenache, although it's both Grenache Gris and Grenache Noir. That wine is 100% hand-picked. It all goes straight to the press where it's whole cluster pressed, so there's no saunier or bleed that's going into that rosé. It's purpose farmed and purpose picked and purpose fermented just for that wine. Fermented really cool in a stainless steel tank before it's moved to neutral oak and left on the lees. The idea here is we pick early. We're trying to push acid. We ferment cool. We're trying to keep it really fresh and vibrant. We keep it in the press a little bit with the juice to get a little bit of texture on the finish. And then ultimately, when we go to the neutral oak, we stir those leaves once a week, to get a little bit of velvetiness as well. So we're trying to like push it in 3 or 4 different directions at once and still keep it balanced.
Well, just so if anybody out there in Pensacola is looking, I apologize that I haven't had this, and we are enjoying it right now. And I am sorry that you weren't able to, but I will promise to get it in stock and definitely come out and try it because it's delicious.
Just go.
You can blame me, guys. You can blame me. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to say it either. You know, that did end up at 91 points, Wine Enthusiast, Top Value California Rosé. So, I mean,
There you go.
Yeah, it's
we're not bad for our 3rd vintage making a rosé. So, not to embarrass Scott, but pretty
well,
impressive.
and when it's 91.1 plus degrees here, we definitely want a cool, crisp, amazing. And he's back. Hello.
Hi. Got another joke for
segment
us?
joke.
Got another one?
Yeah.
Segment joke?
Nice and loud.
Okay, so
Loud.
Okay, so there is a pirate and he walks into a bar.
Loud, but also slow.
There's a pirate and he walks into a bar. And the bartender says to the pirate, "Hey, why is there a huge steering wheel sticking out of your pants?" And the pirate goes, "Arr, I don't know, but it's been driving me nuts."
That's a good one. Oh my!
That's getting stolen and repeated. I just want to let you know.
That's why we love California, because French winemakers don't have their children tell such jokes, and that's why we love California, because we don't get that from France.
I like the joke.
Well, I
We
feel
might
like
get those kind of jokes from Italy sometimes, usually Italy, but not France.
yeah. I feel like there's a couple pirates down in your area anyway, so.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
Absolutely. I'm Haley and Ian. I was just thinking about you guys when I thought about that joke for sure.
So
Oldest settlement in the United States. Don't forget that, in Pensacola. It's the oldest settlement.
Right.
Number 1.
Don't let St. Augustine tell you differently.
That's right.
No,
We were
you're number 2.
I won't.
Wow.
So
They got
Scott,
destroyed, we got destroyed by a hurricane, so you know.
yeah.
You know, I wanted to mention this earlier, but it got kind of sidetracked in the conversation. But you know, with the jokes and just like the whole family dynamic, I thought it was awesome to read that your cellar master has been with you guys for 33 years. So like when you talk about like consistency of a red blend and going back to the old vine red, you know, while it's not a vintage or a year, perhaps, you know, all these years, you know, all those barrels blended together, you've got that obviously your family's involvement, but this one consistent, you know, team and also cellar master that's guiding those practices. I thought that was really incredible to note that it literally has been, I think it's Roman.
Yeah, it's, Ramon.
3 years has been with you guys.
Yeah, so Ramon started with my dad when he was 16.
Wow.
So cool.
It's a great story. Ramon was in high school, and his dad basically made him quit high school and made him go get a job to help support the family. So Ramon started working with my dad. It was his first job. And
Wow.
a couple years later, Ramon's father...
Talk about a career.
Yeah. A couple of years later, Ramon's father attempted to get the next sibling to quit high school to support the family, and Ramon said no. He said, "I've already given up my education." He said, "I'll keep supporting the family until all my brothers and sisters are out of high school." He put one of his brothers through college, and you know, now 33 years later, Ramon is our cellar master, has been our cellar master for a while, owns a house in town, and you know, several of his siblings went through college, and you know, both our success and a lot of his family's success comes down to his hard work. So, yeah, go find the one.
I think those are important. So I am a huge white wine fan, and I know that you do one. I think at least we can only get one here, and then it's the Riesling.
Yep.
So number one question is why Riesling? I know it's probably kind of a traditional Napa old world or old kind of thing that they do. But then the second thing is I know you make Viognier. Have you ever thought about doing 100% Viognier just for me?
I have, just for you.
Just for you. It's her favorite.
Yeah. No, I've thought about making some Viognier. I love Viognier. You know, right now we mostly use it co-fermented in with our Cristo. But
Yeah.
yeah, we've got some OVR porn happening in the other room. But the Riesling, it's a a very logical reason why we made Riesling. I was making the label change to go to OVR, and I realized that Riesling started with an R, and I realized that I already had a tank full of Riesling in my winery because my lady is German.
No way.
I was making a birthday present for her, and instead I sold it. So there you go.
That's amazing. So there's no real reason except for the alphabet.
Well, that and that my lady Lisa loves it, and so I happen to have it. I happen to have it, and so we converted it into one of our standard wines. And yeah, it's great. Super small production, 100% dry. Especially in year 2, it starts getting amazing Riesling notes. In year 1, it's more of a crisp, dry, bright wine, which works great down on your coast. So limited production, but find it.
That sounds really cool. Yeah. So we are going to move on to the Armay.
Okay.
Speaking of age-worthy wines, so I would like to, well, first of all, just tell us a little bit about it. My question is always going to be like, this is age-worthy. How long do you think it will last? Or when is it peak?
Oof.
You're on 2017, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a tricky question. I mean, we work hard to make sure that our wines present well as soon as they get to your customers. Again, part of the blending. So this is mostly Cabernet. It is the varietal Cab, but it also has Merlot, Malbec, and Petit Verdot in it. And by using all those different varietals and playing with our fermentation temps, and when we pick, we can really dial in the profile and make sure that it's approachable. At the same time, I've recently had our 1990 Cab, which is gorgeous right now. So, decades is absolutely possible with these wines. I would say off the cuff, 7 years in, this will probably, I would say that's in the ballpark of perfect.
I was going to ask you also about your library there. So 1990 is the most recent one you've tried. Well, how far does it go back?
We go back. I think we're missing Old Vine Red Lot 1, but we've got Lot 2. Oh. We've got 1980 Cabernet. It goes back pretty far, and not all that frequently, but we definitely dip in there and try some things.
That's great.
So if anybody has a Lot 1 out there, they should get in touch with you.
Yeah, if you have a Lot 1, I'll trade you a lot of other lots for that one Lot 1.
Right? Well, our main is Cab.
Sorry.
Cab. Maybe.
It's Cab, but it's got a few other little things in there. So tell us about making the Armay.
Got it. Well, first it's named after my great uncle. My father got to grow up and spend a lot of his time with his great uncle Armay and his great aunt Marietta.
Marietta, yeah.
Hence the name for the winery. He got to grow up in their house, and they're old school Italians. He got to be involved in all that culture, making a ton of food, rarely going to the store, hunting, fishing, gardening. So on the label here, that's a little dry fly. So my pops and his great uncle Armay would fish all up and down the Russian River, the Dry Creek, and next to all those same rivers are where our rivers are where our vineyards are. And so our vineyards abut all those same waterways that my dad and his great uncle were walking up and down 65 years ago. And my great uncle Armay, when I think of him, I kind of think, I don't know if he was this handsome, but I kind of think of him as like an old school, a river runs through it character. He was dapper, yeah. He was reserved, he was fishing all the time. And he kind of had a foot in the new world and a foot in the old world. So this is very much like that. This is bright, it's bold, it's rich, but it's also got a lot of old world qualities. It's clean.
Absolutely.
It's got some green olive. It's really got fine, long tannins. And the way we achieve that is by bringing in all these different components. So the Merlot comes from a slightly cooler climate region. It brings in the savory component. It brings in a lot of focus. The Petit Verdot brings in shoulders. So knowing that's coming, I can focus the Cabernet and ferment it a little bit cooler. And if I need to build up the tannins, I can use the Petit Verdot. The Malbec is just big and hedonistic and voluptuous and beautiful fruit. And that always helps in California. And so playing with all those different things and trying to find, this weird wine which somehow evokes California, but at the same time somehow evokes the old world is really what we're after.
Oh, and I think you hit it spot on. And another one that you do is the Cristo. Is how would you compare it to that? Is that more New Worldy?
Oof. Cristo is just so rich and so round and so big, and it's got tarry components and smoky, earthy, but at the same time, it's got some lilac and bright fruit. The Cristo, named after my pops, is just, I like to think of that wine, which is a blend of Syrah, Grenache, Petit Syrah, and Viognier. I like to think of that wine like balancing an elephant on a pin. There's so much going on, but it really works together. Yeah. And so they're totally different beasts. For me, this is pretty serious. It's certainly approachable, but it's serious. It's traditional. It's really taut. And the Cristo is one of those wines that, I guarantee you, if anybody just wants a red wine and they just want something fun to drink, they're going to love it. Yet if you have somebody who loves Syrah, who loves Rhone wines, give them that. They're going to love it too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just had some adorable joke about how that's Charlotte and myself, traditional and approachable, and yet, but let's move on.
That's for the
next
week.
Somebody is
probably me.
I don't know. I think it might be Fix.
Yeah.
Well. This is delicious, and I think I feel like it's actually today for sure, and I definitely want to eat something with it, best with food. I want, something yummy to go with it. Obviously, I'm sure you could drink it without, but we have a big foodie audience. So what's something that, obviously barbecue inherently with the last one came forward. What was something that's your favorite to pair with this?
Yeah, barbecue for sure. Although I think for this one, kind of less saucy stuff, more of a straight steak, and you don't even need to go overboard with whatever you're doing the steak with. I mean, you could do a pepper sauce. You could just do some herbs. The herbs pick up some of the greenness in this in a really nice way. The other thing that I think goes really well with this, if you're going to do it with something rich like a steak, is to just do something like some hard grilled or some charred broccoli. Something like that, where again you get that savory component, which I think really jives with the character of this wine.
Absolutely. And to be totally politically incorrect, I think lamb would go really real well with this because it's got the old world quality. Thanks, Justin. Yeah. I hope I'm not the only one.
Perfect.
I have no idea how that's politically incorrect, but
Well, tiny baby animals.
Well, they're delicious.
Don't worry about spread that rumor. Lamb is completely politically incorrect. That way, maybe the prices will go down. We can get more.
We probably would go inherently right along the lines with everything. Yes.
Well, we hope to see you here sometime. I would like to say I know your dad has passed, and I would love to tell you that I do know that he would be very proud of you. I mean, my goodness, what you've done and carried on his tradition, and we really appreciate your time with us tonight.
And goodness, straight from the family, that's amazing. That's our person with a comedian on our virtual organization, so we're thankful that he could join us too.
Yeah, no, thank you. I am sure that my pops would be stoked and he'd be laughing his butt off at Booker, and
Absolutely.
For sure.
and he's always been. Sorry.
I said especially with the second joke.
Yeah, and my pop is always thrilled with with people who love us in Florida, and so obviously we are too. And yes, I will get there. We're talking about one of these days when we can all move around the country again. Having a crazy Marietta road trip. I'll definitely swing through your area.
I had a question a little bit about the oak. I've always felt like you guys have had a pretty interesting oak program with the wines, especially since there's and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a huge new oak program on a lot of these wines, even the estate and the family wines, which we've talked about and sold here, Cristo and Gibson Block and all these types of wines. The oak program is very much a different philosophy from a lot of wineries in the new versus used oak. Could you talk a little bit about that with Armé specifically, or even with OVR? Because I think it's a different level of oak usage than I think a lot of people would be expecting from wine at these price points. I think too.
Yeah, it's very, very different approach. So Old Vine Red. A lot of the wine that goes into that blend goes through oak. So the Dietz Raw, the Syrah, even a significant portion of the Zinfandel. And that's intensive, that's labor intensive, that's expensive. But it really makes for a more supple, smooth, concentrated wine. So we do it. With all the other wines, the family series, the single estate series, they also go through oak. The difference is that it's all neutral oak. So it's oak that we get from other great wineries around us after it's been used for 2 or 3 years. And the thing for me is we're lucky enough to be working with such great vineyards, and we control all of our own farming. So we can make sure that our grapes are intense, our flavors are pure. We can balance out the wine via blending. And we have just never felt the need to really add a component to the wine, and we feel like when we do, that overshadows the clarity of what we're blending towards. So it's a different approach, but it really allows us to showcase our vision and showcase our creativity.
Well said.
Well, it's awesome. Yeah, we are so glad to have you here, and we really appreciate everything that you gave us tonight. It's been very interesting.
Definitely. We can't wait for you to do another grand tour across the country, just like your dad did in the early 1980s, selling it everywhere he could. I think that's probably indicative of why it became so popular, is because it was those grassroots efforts of going town to town and really.
People know when
people know
if a wine has heart.
Yeah,
and I think that your dad's heart is in this wine, and you're carrying on that tradition of wine with heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as soon as I get my hair grown out to my shoulders and get the handlebar mustache back, I'll be there.
Gotta have the stash. Gotta have the stash.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Good to see you. And you and Justin are welcome here anytime. And we would love to see you guys in Pensacola. We would love to host you here. So just plan it when things get where we can all get back to normal.
Absolutely.
Or we'll come out and see you.
Do it.
No matter about that.
So yeah, as soon as we can all move around the country, let's do it. Thank you to all your customers. Cheers from afar. Stay safe out there, and I can't wait to see you all.
Cheers. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to count at the 2 now.
Bye. Thank you, Scott.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin.
See you, Justin. So that was cool.
That was cool.
So that was super cool.
Like,
and having his, so what I love is that his dad passed not too long ago. And, he's, like I said, he's continued the heart of the winery. I think that's super important.
Absolutely.
And
it's near and dear to me.
And you see
cancer,
his son,
so,
and you see his son coming in.
Yeah, the kiddo's right there. Their house is on the
follow on with that as well. So that's pretty neat. So we're going to have a little bit more of this, and then we're going to talk about what we're doing next week.
Because we have one more virtual wine tasting as of now, so we definitely want to include
The last virtual wine tasting we're doing is with Montgrave. They're a French winery. Fix can tell us a little bit more about it as I just do my little thing real quick. We did have these. We've had these in the wine store. They've been very popular. We did them for a November, December somewhat tasting. So you may have tried them then. The white is a blend that can fix. Mikey Marietta can probably tell us about. But he's muted. Are you muted?
You're talking about the white Montgrave? This is actually Colombard, which is a really, really popular grape in France that's grown in France in a variety of different regions. And a lot of people
describe Colombard as very aromatic. How would you describe Colombard?
I think the way to look at it is, a lot of people who maybe like French Chardonnays really tend to like Colombard. The way that the guy from Montgrave told it to me, he said, "Do you like French Chardonnay? Okay, you like Colombard." And then he said to me, "Do you not like French Chardonnay?" And he said, "You'll like Colombard." It's kind of like a really good middle of the road white wine for people that like good French white wines. And it's really good bistro. It's really a good bistro white wine. It will go with a wide range of foods. And it's good for Chardonnay drinkers. It's good for, really anybody who likes a crisp white. It's a really versatile white wine. It's not oaked also. And
like we were talking about earlier, which is Charlotte's favorite white. Like on a scale of that Viognier grape, is it lighter and sweeter, or is it a little bit heavier? I mean, kind of giving a spectrum of that right there.
For the Colombard, I think good Chardonnay from France is a good equivalent for it.
Yeah.
I think and again, the nice thing about it is it's really a nice, friendly weeknight type style white wine. So even if you think you don't like Chablis or Macon Village or something, it's a good alternative to that. So if you really like, and again, just like the guy said from Montgrave to me 2 years ago, he said, "Do you like French Chardonnay? Okay, you'll like it. If you don't like French Chardonnay, you'll like it." So it's really a good alternative for that mid-level palate.
Price point's incredible. Price point's incredible. We got in a full case of both of this one and the red right now because people are going to want to come out and get it. It's like $10 a bottle. So come get it, come try it, get one, get both. But because it will be our last virtual wine tasting for our regular wine tastings. We may do them on special occasions. We may do them on a different night. But, for our regular Thursday wine tastings, next week will be the last one. And the red is a blend, correct? No, 100% Carignan.
Yeah, so they're both like what, $8.99 or something, or $9.99? You guys?
$9.99. $10.
Yeah, so they're very affordable, and the Carignan is a great wine that you see in a lot of Rhone and Languedoc wines. But this is a really great bistro red wine too. And also, if you guys are familiar with Restaurant Iron, which is one of the best restaurants in Pensacola for sure, they've been pouring this wine by the glass for, 5 or 6 months, and it's been very popular there. It's great with the duck. It's great with a lot of the dishes. So, it's a really, really, really great, again, bistro-friendly wine. It goes with a lot of different types of foods really well. Whether you're going to have really high-end duck or you're going to have a sandwich, it's going to go well with everything.
And Carignan is usually a blending grape, but it's nice to see it. It's 100%. So if you're like, well, I've heard of that, but I've never tried it in 100%, somewhat like Petit Verdot sometimes can be, you see it as a blending grape and you can't quite taste the finite Carignan or Petit Verdot. You get it right here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you'll get some herbaceousness too on this. It's a great herbaceous kind of style wine, but also being really fruity and light at the same time. It's really cool in that way because if you, you could have this with lamb chops or you could have this with a salad. I mean, it's actually really versatile because if you gave it a little bit of a chill, it would be really a great summer red, but also it would be really great with your own main course as well. So it's versatile in that way because it has a little bit of fruit plus herbaceousness. It's really kind of once people try it, they're going to really be surprised by how good it is.
Key component with this, and whether it's a virtual wine tasting or any wine tasting, try it.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario is that you don't like it. And if you don't like it, that's okay, because there are a bunch of other grapes that we can explore and tons of other, I came in thinking I knew a lot about wine whenever I joined the team, and to 100% Carignan. And that, you go through all these other grapes that it's like, wait, I didn't even know that existed. I only drink Pinot Grigio,
well, there's about
I only drink Merlot, or I only drink this. And you're really cutting yourself off, cutting your nose off to spite your face, and not giving yourself an opportunity to explore so much magic, like Scott was talking about from Marietta. You're cutting your nose off to spite your face and not exploring the magic that is there of so many other grapes that you may not have ever heard of, that are absolutely pairable with things that you're going to cook here in Pensacola, Florida, or abroad. Hello, friends and family abroad. But absolutely, like tons of other options.
Well, and I think
virtual is huge.
One of the things that you said tonight was, let's say goodbye to Fix.
Oh, Fixie.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. One of the things I think that you said that made a lot of sense was that we do the wine tastings so that you can try some things. And I have a lot of people that come up and they're like, oh, I don't like rosé. Oh, I mean,
why?
Okay.
Oh, because they're so sweet. Well, there are tons of rosés that are not sweet.
Or I don't like Chardonnay. Well, have you tried an oak Chardonnay? I don't like Chardonnay. So that's the benefit of, and that's why we do the wine tastings. And I always try and do a rosé. I always try and do something different that you might not have tried before, because the reason we do the tastings, and I hope that everybody will come in and taste with us in 2 weeks, is so that you can try some things that you haven't tried before.
Absolutely.
And we have a dump bucket. If you don't like it,
That's
dump
right.
it out. But at least you've tried it, you know, and that's,
expand your palate and try it. And if you don't like it, it's no skin off our teeth. But if you do, you
didn't make it. There's a wine for everybody.
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes people go, you know what, I didn't like that wine. I'm like, well, that's okay. You don't have to. We've got a bunch of others that you probably will. So
absolutely.
That's all right. It's all right with us. We're here to find the one that you do like.
Definitely. We're all about suggestions, and even if we don't have what you're looking for immediately in the store, we can always do special orders, or and acquire it pretty quickly for you, or we can make an alternative selection. So you're trying to go to dinner tonight. Right. I need a bottle now. Well, let me make a suggestion for you to try.
Speaking of, Father's Day is still coming up. We've been talking about it for like a month.
It's mainly because I feel like Mother's Day is at the beginning of May and Father's Day is at the end of June. And I was just like, don't forget, I love my dad. So yes,
still coming up.
Still coming up. It's 2 weeks
And he probably does want wine.
He does.
Or bourbon.
Or a lovely port.
Okay, that's fine too.
A nice port. We also sell cigars. So I was thinking about pairing a basket with a beautiful port and a cigar and maybe a lovely wine glass for him.
We can do all that.
We can take care of that for you. And you let us know what your price point is, and we'll make sure the dad gets taken care of. But it's 2 weeks away, so make sure that you go ahead and take care of it.
Exactly. It's still 2 weeks more away.
Still 2 weeks more, but hey, that's the note for me, because
So next week is our last virtual wine tasting, and it's kind of sad for me because I've really enjoyed doing this, and I love it when you guys come into the store, but it's also been good just like saying hi and doing these as well. So
and thank you, Carol. She said very informative and entertaining. Our objective is to be informative, as with any wine tasting, but we really wanted to be entertaining and have it be fun.
I kind of feel like these are more personal, even though that you're not right here with us. But anyway, in 2 weeks you'll be right here with us, and that'll be awesome. And so we'll figure all that out. We're going to probably do it in the courtyard, and we'll see where we go from there. So
So between now and next week, pick up your Montrave, and we'll see you then. All right, bye.